Hi, I'm Sarah Merrick. I am founder and CEO of Ripple Energy. I'd like to thank you all for coming today. So what I wanted to do on this webinar is just give everyone a quick update on what's happening with Ripple so that everyone understands what we're about and what we're trying to achieve, how people can reduce their electricity bills with Ripple, how Ripple works and what the process is that you have to go through, how the co-op works and how the wind farm works, how you get savings on your bill as well. And then what the next steps are from here, and then how we can potentially integrate smart home energy technology to give our customers even greater savings potentially in future. And then we'll answer a selection of some of the questions that we've had from you all in the last few days. So let me just share my screen here. So you should be able to see this, is that right? Can we see the screen? Let me just, that's it, okay. So about us and about Ripple. So I've worked in the wind industry for nearly 20 years. So prior to setting up Ripple, I was head of public affairs at Vestas, which is the world's biggest wind turbine manufacturer. And the team here which comprises of wind farm developers, so people that really understand what makes a good wind farm, what makes a bad wind farm. And our chief technology officer has got loads of experience in online consumer platforms. Now what Ripple is a clean energy ownership platform. And what we do is we enable everyone to own a tiny bit of a large scale clean energy asset. We're going to focus on fuel-free renewables. So that is onshore wind, offshore wind, large-scale solar, and hydro, and potentially also marine and wave energy in the longer term, but they're a long way from being the cheapest options available. So we're going to start with large-scale wind and large-scale solar because they're the cheapest sources of electricity. And then as offshore wind costs come down, they're already coming down quite a lot. As they come down further, then we can add offshore wind farms to the platform as well. And the idea of Ripple as an ownership platform is that it enables everyone, thousands of people, to come together and do together what you just can't do alone. So you as an individual, you can't own a tiny bit of a wind farm, but together with thousands of other people, you can essentially. And yeah, we're starting with onshore wind because it is the UK's cheapest source of electricity now, bar none. So as I said, what we want to do is empower our customers by enabling them to own their own source of clean energy. We want to make it so that by 2050, our vision is that 50% of homes in the UK own their own source of clean power. Now, some of that is going to be rooftop solar, but we want a large amount of it to be large-scale energy assets because it's large-scale assets that are the cheapest ones available. Now, with Ripple, it doesn't matter where you live. So unlike, our nearest comparison is rooftop solar. With Ripple, it doesn't matter where you live. You can live in Scotland, England or Wales, and you can still own your own source of clean power. You can own as much or as little as you want. It doesn't matter whether you live in a flat or whether you live in a home, in a house. It doesn't matter whether you rent your home or whether you own it. And unlike solar panels, if you move home, your ownership stays with you, not your house. So it just goes with you to your new home. Now, so we've had loads of questions asking how people save money with Ripple, and we've worked out that the best analogy that we've come to so far is the equivalent of, instead of if you rent, you're effectively paying your landlord's mortgage for them. With Ripple, it's the equivalent of renting a home to buying a house outright with cash. So you're not paying somebody else's mortgage for them, you're owning something yourself. But obviously, just like if you own your house outright without a mortgage, you still have running costs. So those running costs for a house would be, you still have to pay your council tax, you still have to pay your bills. That's just the same with a wind farm. So with Ripple, you pay your share of the construction cost of the wind farm. Obviously, once the wind farm's built, with a wind farm, that's the biggest cost that there is. But there's still operating costs for the wind farm once it's been built, and these include paying for the land rent, like business rates, insurance, and operations and maintenance. So, if anything happens with a turbine, you can get an engineer up there to fix it. So there are still ongoing costs once the wind farm's been built, but they're very low and they're very stable. And these savings, these low and stable costs are passed through to your bill. And I'll just show you on the next slide how that happens. So your electricity supplier, whoever they are at the moment, you can always guarantee that they will be buying electricity in the wholesale market, and then they effectively supply it to your home and they sell it to you in your home. Now, that electricity price is very volatile. It goes up and down all the time. So here you can see the solid purple line is the UK electricity wholesale prices over the last, what's that, nearly 2 years. The average, the straight dotted purple line is the average over the last 12 months. Now, what happens with Ripple is you can see the green line is the cost of operating a wind farm. So with Ripple, your supplier effectively buys your bit of the wind farm's output at its low and stable operating costs. And because they haven't had to buy that electricity at the higher wholesale price, there's a saving, and that saving is passed through to your bill. So very, very roughly, just as an illustration, if the cost of operating the wind farm is, say, £20 a unit and the wholesale price is 50, there's a £30 saving there to be had. And so if your bit of the wind farm generates 4 units in a year, you would expect to get 4 times that £30 saving, so you would get £120 saving off your bill. Very, very roughly, and Ripple simply tells the supplier how much each customer has to save off their bill every month, and then that saving gets passed through automatically, so you don't have to do anything. Now, so how does it all work? Now, what we do is, so we'll set out what Ripple does and then what our customers do. So basically what we do is we set up an ownership cooperative. So Ripple does not own the wind farm. You own it as our customers via a cooperative. So we set up the co-op and then we partner with electricity suppliers. So we've had loads of questions saying, are we an electricity supplier? We're not an electricity supplier. We partner with them. And the idea with that is that if we're an electricity supplier, if you owned a bit of a wind farm with us, you would be stuck with us, for want of a better word, for 25 years. That's how long a wind farm would last. We don't think that is a very healthy relationship to have with a customer, to be stuck with somebody for 25 years. So what we're going to do is partner with up to 8 electricity suppliers. And that means you can start with one supplier. We want to give a real good range of different electricity suppliers that we're going to work with. So if you start with one and you're not happy with them, you can simply switch to another one. And like when you move home, your ownership and your savings go with you as well. So we partner with suppliers. The first project will only have one supplier initially. You'll be able to switch later on once we once a certain period has passed, but initially there'll just be one. This is because for the pilot project we want it to just be as simple as possible. So we partner with suppliers, and then Ripple, we manage the build and operation of the wind farm on your behalf. So if there's anything wrong with the wind farm, we can't have 20,000 people phoning up the operations and maintenance contractors to find out what the matter is. So that's what we do. So the wind turbines would typically have warranties that say this wind turbine will be able to capture whatever 95% or 98% of the possible electricity or energy that's available from the wind. We make sure that all those warranty provisions are met, essentially. Now, so what you do, so what happens is you pay your one-off construction cost up front. That's your cost of, your share of the wind farm's construction costs. You then switch to one of our supply partners and you join the ownership co-op. And you can do all of this in one sitting on our website. You can't do it yet because we haven't launched the project, but when the project's launched, you'll be able to do it all in one sitting. You wait for us to build the wind farm, and then as soon as the wind farm is built, you will get supplied with the electricity that it generates straight to your home, and you'll see the savings applied to your bill. Typically for a wind farm, our first project is likely to be just a single wind turbine. It will take probably around 6 months to build. For larger projects, they'll take longer, so potentially 12, 15 months to get them built. The bigger the wind farm is, the longer they tend to take to build. And then we've got the cooperative. So as I said, we've set up our first cooperative already, and it's been approved by the Financial Conduct Authority. It's the very first of its kind in terms of how it's structured, so that instead of with lots of co-ops, or particularly energy co-ops, you might become a member of a co-op and you would just get a simple sort of dividend return. With our co-op, instead of getting a dividend or sort of straight out financial return each year, you get the electricity that your bit of the wind farm generates. And this, having a cooperative structure, really democratizes energy ownership. And we give, so that it's set up so that each member gets one vote. So no matter how much of the wind farm you own, everyone gets one vote. We want to make it really, really easy for everyone to engage with it. So things like the annual general meeting will all be done online. So you can just simply, like a webinar like this, you just dial in and you find out everything that's going on. And then the co-op can also contribute to local environmental causes near the wind farm. But the really, really important thing is that by being a cooperative, you own it and it's all in your control. Now, the wind farm itself. So each customer will be a part owner of a specific wind farm. So you won't own, it's not a portfolio, it's a specific wind farm. You'll then be able to see on our app how much the wind farm's generating. We might even have a sort of live webcam so you can see it turning at any point in time. And then on our app, you'll be able to see how much the wind farm's generating, and then potentially in time, we can then link that with your smart meter. So you'll be able to compare, my wind farm's generating this and I'm using this and there's a surplus there. And we can try and get people to be in balance. But it will be a specific wind farm that you can potentially go and visit on holiday if you want to, but it's your wind farm, and we want you to feel proud and really, really part of it. Now, so next steps. So what we're planning is, we're planning to launch our first project, I should say, in early 2020. You'll be given, prior to the launch, there'll be a phase where people can reserve their capacity in the project. To do this, people will pay 10% of the estimated full cost of their ownership. And then that will say, okay, this has secured me however much of the wind farm you might need, so 1.5 kilowatts, say. And then we will launch the project to the public more widely. People who've paid their reservation fees will have to pay their balance before the public launch, otherwise they would risk losing their place in the project. So at the full launch, so as I said, you can't switch suppliers just yet, but once the project's launched, you then obviously pay your balance, switch to our supply partner and join the co-op in one sitting. We want to make it really, really easy for people to get involved. So there's just no hassle. It's just so simple. Okay, and then your future home. So in the longer term, we're not doing this straight away, but this is where we want to get to basically, is we want to partner with smart home energy technology providers. This could give you scope for even greater savings. So what we want to do is, say you've got an electric vehicle, we want your electric vehicle charger to be able to see what the wind farm is doing, both in real time, but also what it's forecast to do over 48 hours. And so your smart EV charger might be able to say, okay, it's not windy now and I need to do a charge. So I'll do a small charge now and I'll save the big charge up for tomorrow night when my charger knows that it's going to be very, very windy. And then you can start to get a correlation between the owners of the wind farm's consumption patterns and the output of the varying output of the wind farm. And we think this can potentially give you even greater savings. And it can also help balance the grid, because as you get more intermittent renewables, so you've got wind and solar, their output increases and decreases over time. It's really, really important that demand can start to become responsive. And we think that by integrating smart technology into our platform, there can be scope for that to happen in a really, really exciting way. So I'll just move on to your questions now. So we've tried to group them together as much as possible. But if you've got any more, and I should have said as well, I'm not reading my notes properly. If you've got any questions, you can write them. There's a Q&A box, so you can write questions in that Q&A box, and then I should be able to see them. So your questions, so we've grouped them as much as possible. So who will your supplier be? We can't say who our supplier is going to be just yet, but we plan to announce it really, really soon. Obviously, as soon as it's announced, we'll tell all our pre-registered customers, and we are very, very excited about that day. Won't the supplier's standard tariff be very expensive? we think not, and we think people will be very very excited with our supply partner. Will there be some locations that produce more wind than others? Yes, there are. So generally in the UK, it's a lot windier in Scotland. Wales is okay as well, but tends to be less windy in England. But the great thing about Ripple's model, unlike rooftop solar, it doesn't matter where you live, because the wind farm or the solar park can be located in the very best place possible. So yeah, wind farms generally are developed and consented where there's greatest wind potential. So we would enable people to get access to those wind farms in those great locations. We've had a question: can you use this with a smart meter to show real-time input? I think we've covered that. Yes, you can essentially. So you won't be able to initially. And again, we're sort of building Ripple up in stages. So the first stage is just getting the first project launched with customers and the single supply partner. We're going to just keep evolving the model over time. So yes, we definitely want to get smart meters to be able to show this real-time comparison, but that's not going to happen on day one. So yes, we definitely want to get there, but we won't get there straight away. Can businesses use Ripple to help make them low carbon? Yes, they can. So businesses can become members of the co-op just like a household can. We're not focusing on businesses initially, just because we can only do so many things at one time. So our first few projects will be focused on domestic customers, but we really want to expand out and let businesses get involved as well. We're not stopping them doing it, but in terms of us sort of reaching out proactively, we won't be doing that straight away. Do I own part of the wind farm, or does the cooperative? So the cooperative owns the whole wind farm. Well, actually, it might own part of a wind farm if we're talking about sort of larger offshore projects or potentially very large onshore ones. But the cooperative owns the whole project. But if you have contributed towards so people will pay, we're calling it a wattage payment, so it's effectively your share of the your contribution towards the wind farm's construction costs. So if you need to own, say, 1.5 kilowatts of the wind farm, you would pay the wattage payment, which would be that share of the 1.5 kilowatts share of the total construction costs. Somebody that owns or that needs 3 kilowatts would pay double the wattage fee, and then they would be entitled to double the electricity, because they would effectively own double the sort of share in the wind farm. Should I ditch gas in favour of electric heating? In the longer term, I think everyone is going to have to ditch gas in favour of low carbon alternatives. So what we're doing is we're planning on partnering with low carbon heating providers. So people like SunAmp, who can then, so people will be able to ditch gas in favour of electric heating, but they will also be able to stabilise their sort of full home energy costs. So with gas, you don't know how much what the gas price is going to be in a year or two, certainly not in 20 years' time, when you put your new gas boiler in. But if you switch to electric-based heating, so this will be things like heat pumps or just standard electric heating, and you're powering that with part of your with your wind farm, you will have a very good idea about how much your electricity, the wholesale element of your electricity will be for the long term. So I've got some questions here. Would I have to pay towards the cost of maintenance? So when we, and is there insurance against damage to cover costs? So if we flick back up here, let me just minimize this. If we flick back up to this one, so when we say the wind farm's operating costs, that is that is effectively the maintenance cost of the wind farm, and that will include insurance and things like that. Effectively, so you don't have to pay that directly. Your supplier pays that to the wind farm, but because they've paid that low cost to the wind farm, instead of paying that higher wholesale electricity price, they pass the savings on to you. So you are effectively paying for the operations and maintenance of the wind farm, but you're not paying for it you're not paying for it direct. Your supplier pays for it, but they then, because they've bought the electricity at the low cost, they pass the savings on. They pass the savings on to you. Let me just get the other questions. I have solar panels and also part of the Power Loop V2G program with Octopus. Can I join the scheme? So we're not sure about that just yet. Potentially for one of the later projects, you could. So yeah, we'll have to come back to that later. But yes, potentially for later projects, you would be able to do that. And then who benefits from the surplus energy generated if I don't consume it? So what happens is your energy consumption will not match the output of the wind farm most of the time. It'll either be higher or it will be lower. So what happens if your wind farm, your share of the wind farm is generating more than you're using, that electricity, your supplier is still buying that electricity. So the supplier buys all of your share and they will simply supply it to other customers. So it's not wasted. But then similarly, if it's not windy and the wind farm isn't generating any electricity, you can still use electricity just like any other customer, but your supplier will be buying it from other sources. But when we estimate how much of the wind farm you need to own, we look at how much the wind farm would be expected to generate over the course of a year. And then we look at how much of that you would need, and then that determines how much of the electricity, or how much of the wind farm you would need to own. So over the course of the year, provided that you've bought or you sort of own sufficient capacity in the wind farm, we would expect that over the course of a year, your output from the wind farm would match your electricity consumption. But if there is a shortfall of a surplus, it's not wasted. So if it's generating more, your savings are simply more. If it generates less, your savings would be less. But none of it is wasted, and you don't lose any of the savings. So even if your bit of the wind farm generates 4 units a year and you only use 2, you obviously get that too. But you also get the savings on the full 4 units that it generates. And so that last question: if my share generates more than I consume, can I sell the excess supply? So you effectively are. You're not sort of selling it directly, but you're getting the savings from that share of the wind farm. And then if I want to buy more of the wind farm, can I? So yes, what we're doing is we want people to own as much broadly, to own as much as they need. So we don't want people owning £1 million worth of a wind farm. Broadly, we want people to own roughly as much as they would need to generate as much electricity as they would consume. On our website, there is a slider, so you can. We're limiting it to the minimum is going to be 50% of your electricity consumption, and the maximum will be 120% of your consumption. So you can own about 20% more than you would expect to use in any one year. If you go with Ripple and you own a bit of a wind farm, and then a year later or 2 years later you buy an electric vehicle and your electricity consumption goes up, there'll be a function on our website where you'll be able to request to increase your ownership. And then if there's somebody else who maybe they've moved to America and they don't need electricity in the UK anymore, they can withdraw their share, and then you can then almost sort of take over their share. So they they withdraw it, and then you can you can request to increase your share as well. But that will all be done via Ripple, and there are certain rules. So you can't customers can't buy and sell between them. You have to withdraw it through Ripple, and then we can then issue the new capacity to somebody else. Do I get a refund if I want to leave? So the reservation fee, if for whatever reason the project doesn't go ahead or you just change your mind, you get a full refund. If you want to leave, then what happens is, as I said, you can apply to withdraw your share. And what we do is we look at the sort of operating life of the wind farm, which is broadly around 25 years. We're going to cut the last 5 years off, and we say there's a 20-year sort of value life for the wind farm. And then if you leave, say you've paid, you own a kilowatt of the wind farm and you've paid £1,000 for that. we say that, and you leave 10 years into the project, you've left halfway, you sort of used up half the value of that wind farm. So you would get half your money back, minus some sort of arrangement fee as well. But yes, you can leave. So we'll be maintaining a list of people that want to increase their ownership. If there isn't anyone that wants to sort of take over your share of the wind farm, then it might take a bit longer. It won't be sort of an instant thing. But yes, there is capacity for people to be able to leave, and they're in the co-op rules, which have been approved by the FCA. And what happens to my bill if the wind farm is unavailable for a long period of time? For example, if there's a windstorm causing damage. So the wind farm, it is very, very unusual for a wind farm to go down for a long period of time. That there may be a problem with some sort of mechanical failure. I think would be much more likely than a storm causing damage. But the project will be insured. And as I said, there'll be, when you buy a wind turbine, generally you would get a warranty from the wind turbine manufacturer, and they guarantee that this wind farm, as I said, will capture 95 or 97% of the electricity, of the energy in the wind and throughout the year. And part of our job is to make sure that those warranties are fulfilled. But yeah, if there is some sort of failure of the wind farm, we would expect that would be covered by insurance. Okay, and then nearly all energy suppliers use their standard tariff as a money spinner. Most are very close to the price cap. These are about £100 more expensive than the most competitive tariff. Is there any delay? If there is any delay in construction, this could become very expensive. When gas is included, the price differential is usually £300 more for an average user. Yes, so people would, so as I said, we are, we're going to have a range of suppliers. So this will give people choice, and we expect those suppliers will, you know, if you go onto USwitch, you can choose which supplier you want to switch to. So as I said, we're going to have up to 8 suppliers, and we think this gives our customers a really good level of choice. Particularly, we're going to partner with large ones and small ones, mid-sized ones. You know, we really want there to be a range, and we think that by having the ability for people to be able to switch, that keeps prices competitive as well. And I should point out that what we're planning is that whatever tariff you're on with any supplier, so whether you're on whatever, a special economy 7 tariff or whatever tariff, your savings will be applied to that bill. So you won't necessarily have to be on a special ripple tariff with that supplier. You'll be able to again choose any of their standard tariffs when you're when you switch to them, and then and also when the wind farm's operating. So I think this question has probably come from our website. It says you'll be on their standard tariff. You'll be on one of their standard tariffs. Effectively, it won't be a sort of special ripple tariff. Your ripple discount will just be applied to whatever tariff it is that you're on. So I think those are all the questions. So if there's any more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Is there one more? No, I think that's all. And so what we've got is a I think if I can put it, we've got a survey. If I can put it in the box, maybe I can't. I can't see. We'll try and email you a link. I think because I can't see the way to make it work. But yeah, thank you for joining this webinar, and we hope this is the first of many. We really want to be able to, you know, have a really good relationship with our customers. We want to know what you think and what you want from us. So do please get in touch. There's just info@rippleenergy.com. I get every single one of those emails. So do use it, and we really want to know what you think, and more importantly, what you want from us, because we want to deliver what our customers want, essentially. Okay, so thank you very much, and yeah, look forward to joining you on another webinar soon. Thank you.